Real Madrid travels to the Basque part of Spain that's known for having per capita one of the most densely populated areas in Spain with Michelin-star restaurants. It's also a location with some of the best surfing in Spain. Real Madrid travels to Sociedad to play the first leg of the semi-final of the Copa del Rey against Real Sociedad. Sociedad has produced some of the best footballing brains in modern football, including Mikel Arteta of Arsenal, Xabi Alonso of course, who is a former Real Madrid player. Currently Sociedad sits 9th in La Liga, and so far they've conceded the same number of goals as Real Madrid, 23 goals in the league. Which of course isn't saying much because this season Real Madrid has been very poor defensively, and it's been part of the issue. Of course, when you have a front three of Rodrigo, Vinicius and Mbappe, you're going to find goals. But has been issues with defense that Real Madrid has struggled with. And similarly, Sociedad has struggled defensively, just like Real Madrid. Now, because Sociedad is 9th in the league and it's unlikely that they'll make it to a Champions League spot by the end of the season, they're not mathematically out, but it seems less likely. They'll probably invest a lot of their resources into trying to win a cup tournament. And let's not forget, last season, the Copa del Rey final was between Atletico Bilbao and Mallorca. Not a lot of people would have expected in the beginning of the season that those would be the finalists of the Copa del Rey. And we, of course, were eliminated by Atletico Madrid. So that's why you can never underestimate these sides in these cup tournaments, because these teams play it like it's the Champions League final and they have nothing really to lose. The Copa del Rey is a two-legged tie. The first leg will be played at Sociedad, and obviously the second leg would be at the Bernabeu. The good news is that Jude Bellingham will be available for Carlo Ancelotti in this match. Despite having a suspension in La Liga, that suspension does not carry over to the Copa del Rey. And of course, Jude Bellingham will also be suspended for the match, the first leg against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League. So it's likely that Carlo Ancelotti will utilize Jude Bellingham in this game, but a player who's unlikely to start this game is Fede Valverde because, according to different sources within Spain, he was on painkillers in the game against Manchester City, and he was rested in our last match against Girona at the Bernabeu, where Lucas Vázquez started. It's likely that Vázquez will start this game, and Fede will get some much-needed rest. Another player who is unlikely to start this match, but will likely see minutes, is David Alaba. In the press conference following the game against Girona, Carlo Ancelotti said that David Alaba is starting to recover his best form, but it's unlikely he'll play more than one game per week as of now. And given that he's played the game over the weekend, it's unlikely that Carlo Ancelotti will pick him as a starter for this next match. Now, one of the things that David Alaba has tried to say is he wants to be a starter for the game against Atletico Madrid. And in my estimation, that would be a huge error because you need, at this very moment, your two best center backs. And those two best center backs of the club currently on their form are Raúl Ascencio and Antonio Rüdiger, and that's without a shadow of a doubt. One of the things that Carlo gets criticized for is going with the players he trusts most, rather than going necessarily for the player that's in form, because Carlo Ancelotti operates with the trust system. The more trust you have in the bank, the more likely you are to play the big matches. And although Raúl Ascencio doesn't have that credit in the bank with Carlo Ancelotti, his performances over the last few games have caught the eye of some really established people in the game. Former Arsenal manager Arsene Wenger said, and I quote, "He's one of the top 3 best center backs in the world." That's Arsene Wenger saying that. Many of you will say in the comments that he's jumping to conclusions, and let's not get ahead of ourselves. But we do have a gem on our hands. From a ball progression standpoint, that assist that he played to Jude Bellingham when he came on, when Eder Militao tore his ACL. And then obviously the assist he played to Kylian Mbappe in the game against Manchester City. There's something special about this guy. And it's not just about his talent, but it's his attitude. And many people who played football, you understand that attitude is as important as talent. And this guy has it in spades. He's very good in physical duels. He's very aggressive. He has the recovery pace. He clearly can progress the ball forward. Now he just needs the trust of the manager. Last season, Nacho surprised many of us. And I remember the clash against Manchester City. I was one of those people that was really concerned about him starting that second leg of the Etihad. But he played so spectacularly that night. And he was so dominant in those physical duels with Haaland. So Raúl Ascencio can create a Cinderella story himself. And I would really love to see Carlo Ancelotti back him and make him a starter for the rest of the season. But a player who has not gotten any minutes, and we will have to wait and see if he gets any sort of minutes against Real Sociedad, is Arda Guler. Carlo Ancelotti said he's fit and ready to play, but he's just chosen not to play him these last few games. And I think part of the problem with this is, for some reason, Carlo Ancelotti has framed Arda Guler as a player who plays in a very advanced role because of how clinical he is in front of goal. But what many Real Madrid fans would like to see is Arda Guler playing in a slightly deeper role as more of a playmaker. Because currently there's two players who are really acting as playmakers in the team, and that's Luka Modric and Dani Ceballos. And of course, the discovery of Ceballos and his emergence as a key player in this team came very later on in the season. And obviously he's been instrumental since then. But if you don't give players chances, how do you know what they're capable of? I agree in front of goal, Arda Guler is potentially outside the box, smacking the ball from outside the box. It's between him and Kylian Mbappe. But it looks like there's so much more to his game than that. And we would just love to see him play more minutes, especially when you're seeing players like Fede Valverde being run into the ground and playing with painkillers. The diversity of minutes, when you have over 70 games in a season, is really key. Speaking of key players, Luka Modric played almost the full 90 in our last match against Girona. And typically when that happens, Luka Modric does not start the following game. And that's why it's more than likely Ceballos will start this match. Now, as I understand it, Ceballos did have a little bit of a knock following the City clash. So he's not back to full health, but I just hope that we don't have to play our strongest 11 to get over the finishing line against a team that's 9th in La Liga. But even these smaller teams, they're, like I said earlier in the video, they're going to throw everything they have at Real Madrid. Another player who's going to be key over the next few games is Eduardo Camavinga. He's going to be key in not just this game, but in the Champions League as well with the suspension of Jude Bellingham. And since his injury, Camavinga has really struggled to recover his best form by making a lot of silly small errors. It just seems like Camavinga needs to clean up a lot of those little mishaps that he seems to have. And one of the ways to do that is just to get more minutes on the pitch. But another thing with Camavinga is he has been played in different roles, different positions. He's been played in a double pivot, as a single pivot. But when he's played at the 6, he does seem to struggle a lot of times with his ball progression. He'll sometimes give up the ball cheaply or commit to a foul that will expose the team. Just a few things that he needs to clean up in his game, but nobody's questioning the talent and the abilities of Eduardo Camavinga. He can turn out to be, based on pure talent, one of the best players in the world. Now, if any of you remember the last time that we played Real Sociedad, it was a very competitive match and they hit the post 3 times. Real Madrid was awarded 2 penalties, and one of those penalties, the one on Vinicius, was very generous if we're being honest. Sociedad likes to play with a 4-5-1, and of course their key player is Kubo, who cuts in from their right side because he's a left-footed player. But Sociedad isn't a team that sits deep. They try to press the ball high up the pitch, especially when they're playing at home, and they love to play attacking football. So again, this is not an easy match for Real Madrid. Stylistically, Real Madrid does struggle with teams that are organized, that press high up the pitch. So again, a tricky match for Real Madrid, one step closer to facing either the winner of Atletico Madrid or Barcelona in Sevilla at the Copa del Rey final. So we're still in the hunt for the treble. So this is going to be a key match for Real Madrid. And hopefully if Real Madrid can win this match, they put themselves in a position where when the return leg comes to the Bernabeu, you're not forced to play your strongest 11 players. You want to put yourself in a position where you can come back home on comfortable footing. The last time we played in the Copa del Rey, the game went to the extra time and we had to have both Arda Guler and Endrick bail us out. And I would love to see both of those guys get rewarded for doing that as well. My prediction for this match, I think Real Madrid wins. I think it's a 2-1 tough game, but in the end, Real Madrid just has too much offensive quality. Let me know if you guys agree. And make sure you guys like and subscribe because I have a lot of really exciting content coming up. Thank you for watching. Hala Madrid.